Let me be clear. UAP are real.
Oh boy, you couldn't ever imagine this. Roger, they're troubleshooting.
We've talked about them in some of our other alien videos as well as ancient art videos, so you may know what I'm referring to. These are the best known geoglyphs in the world and were made sometime between the 200 BC and 800 AD point. They're more than 800 feet long white line work etched into the Peruvian desert, the longest running straight for over a mile. They're alongside 300 some odd shapes and 70 figures and animals. The biggest shapes stretch nearly 1,200 feet across and are best viewed from air and certain vantages on nearby hills. Scientists suspect the Nazca drawings are as many as 2 millennia old, and because of their age, size, and visibility from above and mysterious nature, the lines are often cited as some of the best examples of alien handiwork on Earth. Otherwise, how would an ancient culture have been able to make such huge designs in the desert without being able to fly? And why? Eric von Daniken, in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, proposed that the ancient Nazca was landing site for extraterrestrial spacecrafts. The alien being supposedly imparted the local people with special knowledge and technology before returning to their home planet. After the departure of these ancient astronauts, the Nazca culture built a series of giant images and designs as messages to the extraterrestrial beings whom they viewed as their gods. You may remember debating this with your friends when it trended on Twitter, the helicopter hieroglyphic. Dendera's Hathor Temple has a bunch of funky stuff going on that we'll talk about in this video, the first being this. What you're seeing is hieroglyphics, and among them is a carving of what looks like a helicopter, even airplane or submarine, depending on how far your imagination goes, but I feel like the helicopter is evident enough for all of us to notice. Ancient astronaut believers have leapt on this, seeing a representation of modern technology in antiquity, knowledge perhaps given to the Egyptians by time travelers or extraterrestrial entities. As much as you may not believe in aliens, the explanation that archaeologists have for this actually does, suck. They're trying to pitch things like hieroglyphics depicting modern technology as an example of pareidolia, our tendency to perceive a pattern and meaning that isn't actually there. Because predicting a helicopter specifically exactly how it would look to a T is just a normal pattern recognition stuff. Usually pareidolia is perceiving a human face in the tree, not predicting a whole-scale invention. One viable argument, however, is in ancient Egypt it was common for hieroglyphics to be recarved over time, especially when a new pharaoh came into power. Digital imaging has shown that these carvings are overlaid, one original from the reign of Seti I and was remade for the reign of Ramses II. So archaeologists believe that the plaster used to cover the Seti I inscription eroded over time, which led to the appearance of a single combined image. What do you think? And while we're inside Dendera, watch your step because the melted stone staircase is here. Maybe not necessarily a hieroglyphic or a petroglyph, but it's altered stone and people associated with aliens, so it fits my parameters, make it work for yours. This is the Temple of Hathor. Look at that beauty. This site in Dendera is an option for travelers who want to take a honeymoon somewhere unexpected. Intricate figures and finely carved hieroglyphics haven't lost their charm over the years on young lovers. Now this is one of the staircases that leads out to the roof of the iconic Temple of Hathor at Dendera. It's built in pure granite and sandstone during the Ptolemaic rule around 300 BC. Yet the stone steps appear to be melted, and it's hard to imagine what could have managed to melt solid stone steps, seeing as the temperature needed to melt solid marble is 1,339 Celsius. It is believed that some of Dendera was built over another pre-existing site. As we know, the priests would use this staircase to access the shrine of Hathor on the temple roof. The images on the walls on either side of this passageway even depict the line of priests who are carrying offerings up this shrine. Ancient alien believers theorized that the temple roofs were used to communicate with aliens that Egyptians worshipped as gods, and it could also be the reason that the stairs are melted. Perhaps it's the result of an alien landing or technology. Maybe the temple was built on a powerful alien site and the melted action is a result of that, or of an alien device once stored in this mighty and godly temple. Who knows? A break from Dendera before we revisit its light. Let's talk about the Topock Maze, an archaeological site located south of Interstate 40 near Needles, California. And while it's hypothesized to be a geoglyph, the the purpose, age, and creators of the lines are highly disputed. A 1978 study by Arda Demheisnel proposed that the lines were prehistoric and had some sort of religious or ceremonial significance to the native Mojave people, and the modern Mojave people believe that this maze is a part of a spiritual portal to the next life where bad souls get lost and good souls find their portal to the afterlife. Early experts believe that the warriors returning from battle would also run through the maze, leaving any bad spirits behind in it. Regardless as to why it was created, the magnitude and magnificence of this geoglyph can't be disputed. How long this geoglyph will be able to withstand the elements is unknown, and how it has for an approximate 600 years is also unknown. What is known is the long-standing belief of the power and correlation of the site with souls of the dead. Many people have pilgrimaged over to the site in hopes of spiritual relief. This has inspired theories of alien involvement in the creation of the Nazca Lines maze and its effect on a person being alien technology. The Blythe Intaglios are sisters, not twins, with the Nazca Lines. Located about 4 hours from Los Angeles in the city of Blythe, the Blythe Intaglios are the most well-known of over 200 of them in the Colorado desert. That's right, we got a desert full of doodles, and it's the only known desert Intaglios in North America. And while pictographs such as mountain lions, birds, snakes, and geometrics are strewn all over this desert, the human figures are only found near the Colorado River. The largest of the etchings is over 170 feet in length. These figures are so immense that many of them were not observed by non-natives until the 1930s, as they're best seen from air, so if you didn't pay attention to the ground as you were walking, it was easy to miss them if you aren't looking for them. Nobody knows what the figures represent, but they have some theories, and you can read about them on the plaques next to each fenced-in area if you visit the site. Many of the engravings are believed to date from the prehistoric period, but their age and identity of their creators are still uncertain, even as local indigenous clans have not claimed the making of the site, but some have claimed to use them for ancestral worship. The biggest mystery still remains how they made the giant works of art in the first place without being able to check their work from overhead. The correlation of the Nazca Lines and the Blythe Intaglios is natural for alien enthusiasts in the way that pyramids can be connected. There are once again theories of alien landing pads or dedications, and thanks to aliens above from humans below via artwork. And back to Hathor Temple for Dendera Light. And it's not even actually a light, so major punk with that one. It's actually a stone depiction of what's potentially a light, located in a long underground passageway directly beneath the main temple that is completely covered in carvings. According to Egyptologists, the bulb-like structure represents the womb of Nut, the goddess of the sky, which is also a common depiction of the night. It's been a major source of controversy in Egyptian history since many fringe historians interpret the depiction as evidence of a modern lighting system, similar in appearance to a Crookes tube. Supporters of this theory claim that electrical light would give an explanation to the absence of lamp-black deposits in many discovered tombs in Egypt. The Dendera Light is often used in similar context as the Baghdad Battery, in the assumption that ancient cultures were much more advanced than we believe today. Naturally, this opens the doors for conspiracy involving aliens, as it's often assumed that ancient civilizations found technological advancements through their intervention. There is a mainstream explanation from Egyptologists that makes the most sense and collaborates with other transcriptions in the temple, but we want irrational alien theories, so we're gonna ignore that and move on to the Atacama Desert geoglyphs. Suck it, Nazca Lines, because these glyphs are monstrous, covering 150 plus square kilometers compared to Nazca's only 250 square kilometers. However, there are similarities outside of their whopping size difference, so maybe I'm speaking too soon. Both Nazca and these Atacama glyphs had multiple symbolic or ritual purposes, but the Atacama glyphs also had a vital role in the transportation network connecting great South American civilizations. Using artifacts and stylistic characters, archaeologists believe the earliest was first constructed between 600 and 1500 AD. The widely varied geoglyphs are in geometric, animal, and human forms and are in about 50 different types. Some geoglyphs are found in isolation, some are in panels up to 50 figures. The most frequent type of geoglyph is geometric forms such as circles, circles with dots, rectangles, crosses, arrows, parallel lines, all sorts of stuff. This Atacama Desert is known for alien association of all kind. In 2018, a tiny alien skeleton found here pretty much broke the internet. It was actually technically found in 2002. There's the Blood Red Lagoon, mummies that are older than the ones in Egypt, and some of the world's clearest stargazing can be done here. Another alien associated part of Atacama is the Atacama Giant. I wanted to talk about it separately because it deserves its own attention. It's the largest Atacama desert carving, 390 feet tall and carved into a hillside. It's undoubtedly alien in appearance. It is the largest prehistoric anthropomorphic. It has been suggested that the petroglyph represents a shaman, spiritual figure, or deity, but there is little evidence to corroborate corroborate these claims. Scientists think that the Atacama Giant was likely an astronomical guide, as the lines that stretch off of the figure's head predict the movements of the moon and can be used to map the changing of seasons. By knowing this, the day, crop cycle, and weather patterns, they could determine a lot. Or, as some believe, perhaps it really is a depiction of the alien who created it or them. Several of them represent enigmatic anthropomorphic figures with elongated or ovular heads along with geometric patterns. Personally, I think he's creepy as hell, so let's just shuffle on. Next up is the Caral-Supe Screamer. You may recall the Caral-Supe from the top 10 ancient alien discoveries that will confuse you video. These ruins are the oldest ruins of the oldest civilization in all of South America. The site dates back 4,000, even 5,000 years, making it one of the oldest cities in the world. This site consists of 6 stone pyramids that were found next to large amphitheaters, ceremonial rooms, altars, and many other structures. And after excavation started on this site in 2001, there was a lot to discover, such as treasures, history, and lore. And just half-mile southwest at the city's pyramids and mounds, the Caral-Supe Screamer. Notice the D-shaped head and its large gaping mouth with wild raked hair. The facial features include a sliced half nose and sagging almond-shaped eyes. Its mouth appears to be open in a horrified screech. This geoglyph is similar to the screaming, bleeding figures found etched into stone walls at the site called Senchana in Casma Valley, 150 miles to the north. But like those, it's unclear what this petroglyph means. It is believed to have been constructed around the same time as Caral and have been associated to a nearby ceremonial site. Many wonder how this face was made, similar to the Nazca and Blythe Lines, without any vantage point. And for what purpose? This is far less easy to brush off as ceremonial than something like patterns, squiggles, and lines. Unfortunately, Caral-Supe history is mostly lost, as is its civilization. However, it's drawn lots of alien attention, as lots of temples are built at the 450 AD point. Its circular formation is similar to many others. It's been assumed to have a landing pad of sorts, and there is belief that astronomically it's connected to sites nearby. And the last on our list is the alien art of Chhattisgarh. I'm sorry if I say that wrong. These paintings are vividly red and in remarkable condition. Located about 130 km from Raipur, the caves come under the Villa Chandelier and Gotatolia land in India. Extensive research is needed for further findings. Chhattisgarh and its surrounding areas presently doesn't have any such experts on prehistoric or archaeological findings who could give clarity on subject, so it's about patiently waiting for that access. In the meantime, however, there are several beliefs about paintings among locals in the villages. While a few worship the paintings, others narrate stories that they've heard from ancestors about Rohela people, aka the small-sized ones, who used to land from the sky in a round-shaped flying object and take away 1 or 2 persons of the village who never returned. Could be onto something. There is a cave painting depicting a craft with fan-like antenna and 3 legs for a vehicle stand, but that could just be a coincidence. The paintings are done in natural colors and the paints have hardly faded despite the years. The strangely carved figures are seen holding weapon-like objects and don't have clear features, oftentimes missing a nose and mouth. Some pictures it appears that the people are even wearing a form of spacesuit, to which archaeologist J.R. Bagard replies, "We can't refute the possibility of imagination by prehistoric men. Humans usually fancy such things." He continues to say that art depictions are similar to that of aliens seen in Hollywood and Bollywood, adding that the findings suggest that humans in prehistoric times may have seen or imagined things from other planets, which creates curiosity among the peoples and the researchers. Number 10 is the pyramids of Chichen Itza. These ancient Mayan pyramids are obvious ones to end up on our list. This ancient structure has long since been connected to aliens. Many believe that they helped build the structure, but also use them as markers for landing space vessels. There's of course a theory as well though that the top of the pyramid has emitted a powerful energy beam, enabling the ancient Mayans to communicate with aliens or other pyramids around the world, implying the potential of interconnectedness between multiple pyramids and civilizations that we'll talk about through this video. Number 9 is the Vastu architecture. These temples in India contain intriguing alien-like depictions carved on their stone walls. People flying, alien-esque figures, strange flying devices, the whole alien shebang. So, one theory for this is that aliens visited ancient Indians, and these interactions are depicted on their stonework now as a result. And to tack onto that, some believe that when these aliens shared their flying technology, the Indian people began to worship them as their gods. Naturally, we circle back to the concept of pyramids and grand temples being built to having the ability to harness energy from above to communicate with aliens or other civilizations as well. But it's being said that these temples were constructed with specific design given in old Hindu texts known as Vastu Shastra, and the texts give intensely specific considerations to astronomy in its design, basing it off of all the movements of the stars and planets. So maybe a space laser being emitted from the temple isn't too far far off. The gods, architectural methods, and advanced technology may not confirm the existence of aliens coming to Indian land, but at least can raise some suspicion. Anyways, the temples show similarities to the depiction of an ancient Indian flying machine called Vimanas, which will be number 8 on the countdown. Script from over 2,000 years ago in India claimed dozens of accounts of people seeing these flying machines. They're described differently in some accounts: man-made wings like a plane, a disc shape, and a famous cloud palace depiction. The Sanskrit word Vimanana, when translated, literally means measuring out, traversing. In short, it means some form of aircraft. When 8 chapters of this ancient document are translated from Sanskrit, they revealed an intriguing list of these features that the devices had, such as remote images on screens, remote sounds. To protect itself, it had the ability to disguise itself as a cloud or create terrifying sounds. The discussion on Vimana includes various constructions to double as boats or even submarines. There's discourses on atmospheric pressure, aeronautic hazards, and even dietary and clothing for aviators. These writings were no manifestations or metaphors. They talked about how the gods rode them, but anyone may ride and own one as well. They were treated as manufactured physical objects or even flying houses. For this much ancient text to be translated and have so much modern ideology and inventions, well, it must be aliens, or perhaps some ancient sci-fi stories, or perhaps now we see these objects with hindsight and try to fit them into something that makes more sense to us now, such as an airplane. But they're just anything but, and we'll never know. Number 7 is Stonehenge, another you should know to expect to see on this list. Now, I won't bring up things like the Easter heads since we have sufficient evidence of human craft, but Stonehenge? On the table, so let's dive in. The Circle of Stone sits in the countryside of Salisbury, and it comes from the Neolithic period, which was the final division of the Stone Age. They stand alone, a vast meadow sprawling for miles around it. Having visited Stonehenge myself, I can tell you that you have the choice of a 20-minute walk or a 5-minute shuttle ride. The energy is very void, as if the air is free of static and just doesn't seem to move. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but it does truly feel unearthly. These stones weigh an average of 50 tons and are over 8 feet in height. They seemingly dropped into their ring, no rhyme or reason in their placement, at least to Swiss author Eric von Däniken, who suggests that they may be a model of the solar system that doubled as an alien landing pad. How Stonehenge is assembled is unknown to us. There's no documentation, no other ruins, no artifacts. There's genuinely nothing but these stones, some of which were somehow lifted feet upwards and placed horizontally on others. There's no way to know what it means either, but what we do know is that the stones are somehow perfectly aligned with solstices and eclipses, suggesting that the builders did know astrological charts and were able to keep an eye on the heavens. That's if they didn't come from them. Number 6 is interplanetary, but still alien to us, hieroglyphics on Mars. We've always talked about and conspired about aliens visiting us in ancient civilizations here on Earth, but what if they visited elsewhere? Or we have. Ooh, sorry, that's ghosts, not aliens. Anyways, the reason for that is some NASA photos were released in 2015 that were taken by the Curiosity rover. It shows what looks like some kind of writing or hieroglyphic on the rocks. A boxy 2 shape next to what looks like a curved Y with 2 other extending legs are side by side. While we can't be sure what the marks are at this point, it certainly has enthused ancient alien believers who claim that this is yet more evidence that aliens and ancient peoples visited one another. But skeptics argue the so-called discoveries on the images sent back by the rover are just textures in the rock. Despite the temptation of reading into evidence found so far, scientists' understanding of Martian history is still unfolding. Questions up for debate are: was the ancient Martian atmosphere thick enough to keep the planet warm and wet for the time necessary to nurture life? Are organic compounds found as signs of life, or simple chemistry that occurs when Martian rock interacts with our sun and water? What's your take? Hieroglyphics and conspiracy, or do you think they're just some cracked rocks? Up next is the City of the Gods, number 5. Teotihuacan is its actual name. This sprawling ancient city in Mexico is known best for its astronomically aligned buildings and complex pyramid temples. Their building was dated back 2,000 years, and scientists have suspected a mixture of cultures including Mayan, Zapotec, and Mixtec built the city so that they could house more than 100,000 people. They adorned it with murals, and they had a transportation system. Evidence shows advanced agricultural practices that earned the city a reputation of being much more technologically developed than should be possible in pre-Aztec Mexico. So naturally that brings us to the ideology of aliens, especially as the most massive temple, the Pyramid of the Sun, which is one of the largest constructions in the Western Hemisphere. It's also been noted that the alignment of the pyramids is based on calendar cycles. Many people believe that the flat-top pyramid served as a landing pad where the alien secrets lay inside the impenetrable walls. In 2003 though, a sinkhole caused by a flood led to the discovery of the Avenue of the Dead tunnel, connecting the Sun Temple with the Temple of the Plumed Serpent. People believe that this connection correlates with rituals and contacts shared between civilizations and aliens, these tunnels being used to transport sacrifice or make passage between the communication stations easier. Its name was given to it by the Aztecs when its deserted ruins were discovered sometime in the 1300s. It had already been abandoned for centuries at this point. When the name's translated, it means the place where men become gods, and why they chose to name it that, we're unsure. When the Aztecs found it, there was likely a great amount of discernible history available in contrast to today's standards. Perhaps they saw writings and stories that we didn't, something to make them believe in godly powers of the temples or the peoples. We know frustratingly little about this mysterious society, from the conditions of its rise to the circumstances of its collapse to its actual name. The Delphi site of Greece is number 4. Alien theorists love to use Greeks as a basis for their theories. This is because of the possibility of life beyond Earth is one that began in ancient Greek world, originating at least as far back as the 4th century BC, when ancient Greek society had schools of thought that speculated extraterrestrial life. One of the favorite examples is Delphi, Greece, where the stone masonry is eerily similar to that of Sacsayhuamán in Peru, which is believed to be a site of alien intervention. This was also the famous site of the Oracle of Delphi, a prophetic woman who would reside in the temple of Paracas. She was rumored to have sat on a golden tripod over a fissure in limestone where she could breathe in the breath of Apollo and communicate with invisible forces. What she was breathing in, we aren't sure. According to toxologist Henry Spiller, both of the ways an oracle's vision would occur, either peaceful and slow or erratic and barely legible, are symptoms associated with inhalation of hydrocarbon gases, aka she could have just been zooted. But with the architecture as a star, alienologists jumped to say that this perhaps too could have truly been alien communication. The oracle was said to be possessed by Apollo in order to be asked prophetic questions about upcoming war, political actions, theories of life, and more. What if it wasn't Apollo, but rather she was channeling alien messages through an unconscious state, that the fissure had been a beam of alien power going into her? Maybe that explains why Delphi, Greece is considered one of the 3 major UFO sighting hotbeds in Greece. In fact, on June 3rd of 2012, this picture was taken and posted on a UFO forum, claiming the image to contain a UFO. What do you think, faux or fact? It's Caral-Supe at number 3. And despite its significance now, the importance of this site wasn't determined until decades after its discovery. Hilariously, this is because of the sheer size and complexity of it deceived scholars, and many believe that the site was more recent, so they left it largely ignored. It's in 1994, Ruth Shady was studying the site. She realized the lack of pottery wasn't because of the recency, the site was just dated before the advent of pot firing technology. Radiocarbon dating on some of the woven bags found inside the pyramid confirmed that Caral-Supe were the locus of some of the earliest population concentrations and corporate architecture in South America, dating somewhere around 2600 BC, which upended history's well-established timeline, pushing it back 4600 or more years. Now since then, other Notre Chico sites have been found that date several hundred years earlier, but at the same time Caral-Supe was being built, so was the ziggurats in Mesopotamia and the step pyramids of Egypt, all incredibly similar structures. Ancient astronaut theorists believed that they could be profoundly connected, especially following the theory of ancient buildings such as these that tend to average around the 4500 age range. But the largest mystery of Caral-Supe remains why it was abandoned so suddenly after thousands of years of inhabitation. There's no concrete evidence indicating a single event like an earthquake or large flood that ended this occupation. Number 2 is the Nazca Lines. These are a little more famous, so you may be familiar. They lay 320 kilometers southeast of Lima, and they cover a total length of 1300 kilometers of high and dry plateau. They're seemingly at random. Joining them are 300 geometric shapes and 70 figures of animals, including a spider, a monkey, a hummingbird, and a bizarre alien man figure. The biggest shapes stretch nearly 1200 feet across and are best viewed from the air. Scientists suspect that the Nazca drawings are as many as 2 millennia old, and because of their age, size, and visibility from above, and mysterious nature, the lines are often cited as one of the best examples of alien handiwork on Earth. I mean, how would an ancient culture have been able to make such huge designs in the desert without being able to fly? And why? The longest of the lines run straight as an arrow for miles, so some believe it would have acted as a landing strip. Perhaps the art was meant to be gifts of appreciation to the aliens so they may look down at them from above. So how did the ancients manage to create such a precise etchings from the ground without being able to fly? The only theoretical way is that people could have flown in the air at this time is with the form of a hot air balloon, as suggested by American explorer Jim Woodman. But we don't know for sure, so the Nazca Lines remain a fascinating enigma. But the explanation for how the Nazca Lines were physically created is quite simple. They're called geoglyphs. These enigmatic designs are made by removing the top rust-colored layer of rocks and exposing the bright white sand underneath. And for number 1, let's investigate the Sardinian Giant. The Mediterranean's most important archaeological discovery of the 20th century was a complete accident and also unearthed a creepy conspiracy. When farmers are plowing their fields in 1974 in central Cabras, they hit something. That something turned out to be 5,000 fragments that underwent a painstaking and lengthy reconstruction process to form gigantic statues. 16 boxers, 6 archers, and 6 warriors. This colossal army of 26 statues has a height of 8 feet 2 inches and weigh an average of 880 pounds each. Each figure was carved from one limestone block alone. They have highly stylized features such as triangular faces, T-shaped eyebrows and noses, and their most distinctive features are their eyes. They're represented by large round circles that stare straight ahead and right into your soul. I imagine if they weren't built to be intimidating, they were anyways. Every photo I've seen feels like they see through you. This is one of the aspects that give the statues an alien look, fueling alternative theories about the ancient astronauts. What is certain is that the giants are surrounded by an aura of legend since their discovery, as they belong to the mysterious Nuraghic civilization, which very little is known of. The lands of Sardinia are also dotted with their tombs, which are called tombs of giants. Why? Because they're huge! The burial chambers are 65 to 98 feet in length and 7 to 10 feet deep, and according to the various inhabitants of nearby cities, very large bones were found in the countryside surrounding their village. Some claim that they belong to men up to 11 feet tall. Legendary painter Muscus himself found the remains of a giant skeleton in a cave in 1972, when he was still a child, and made one of these claims himself. Interviewed repeatedly by journalists, locals stand by that any giant skeletons that have shown up or been shown to authorities or the experts when they are found almost always disappeared into thin air the next day. Sometimes so did the finder.
Then, the Nazca Lines. The Nazca Lines are a group of geoglyphs made in the soil of the Nazca Desert in southern Peru. They were created between 500 BC and 500 AD by people making depressions or shallow incisions on the desert floor. They were able to make these lines by removing pebbles and leaving different colors of dirt and soil exposed. In the years leading up to 2020, almost 100 new figures had been found thanks to the help of drones. The odd and mysterious thing surrounding these lines is the intricate designs that some of them possess. For instance, one of the Nazca Lines, famously known as the monkey, is in the shape of a large monkey, spanning far and wide and appearing to be very well thought out. Like, it may look like a child's drawing, but considering the technology available at that time, it's a wonder how any kind of clear image was created. Many believe that they were not alone in these efforts. Ancient civilizations could have very easily been visited by extraterrestrials, and it would explain why some of these lines created clear images when some just look like long straight lines. Perhaps aliens were simply showing the people how to create these shapes and what they could look like when they are done properly. This would mean that any lines not creating an image is the result of someone being like, man, why doesn't the ground look like a dog yet? Number 9, Mesoamerican pyramids. There are a few pyramids that have popped up in history that make seemingly no sense. These monolithic buildings can span hundreds of feet tall and wide and have existed far too long to only be the work of the people at that time. Sure, when it comes to the ancient pyramids in Egypt, there is a decent explanation, but I'm not convinced aliens weren't involved in that either. For Mesoamerican pyramids, they were created similarly to those in Egypt, but are created with flat tops and stairs that ascend up the structure. Historians have pieced together that ancient Mesoamerica was fairly advanced in terms of its technological advances, hence the better looking pyramids. Take that, Egypt! The interior of Mesoamerican pyramids may hold the secrets to their original creators. The builders of these structures lined the walls with stories about hero twins. That is a messed up story, by the way. Feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl, myths, sacrifices, all the fun stuff. Rituals are not something unique to ancient Mesoamerica, but the results of these rituals may have been these buildings. Perhaps they were sacrificing people to aliens that they viewed as gods. If someone came down from the sky in a giant metal disc, I think we would all bow down in one moment. Number 8, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent is the third largest pyramid at Teotihuacano, a pre-Columbian site in central Mexico, and I'm sorry if I butchered that name. Probably did. In the 1980s, it was discovered that over 100 bodies were buried beneath the structure in what many people believe were sacrifices. The burials, along with the structure, date back to 150 and 200 CE and is named after the feathered serpent deity, which covers its sides. The feathered serpent is an astonishing sight, but many visitors feel that the structure may not be as man-made as we think. Adorning the outside of the structure are several serpent heads. Some are the deity, but they shift between this, a possible fire serpent, and what people consider to be a warrior serpent. These symbols have been debated about for quite some time, with some feeling that they are calendrical in origin, something about time, but others believe them to be more cosmological in scope, telling the story of a feathered snake god that helped to shape the structure of their civilization. Sure, in movies and TV, aliens are little green dudes with big bug eyes, but who's to say that they didn't look like giant snakes with feathers? Beneath this structure, not only did they find bodies possibly sacrificed in the deity's name, but they also found hidden tunnels and paths that were blocked off by large boulders. Eventually, the government granted archaeologists permission to actually properly dig around this area, and the tunnel entrance was unearthed. It appears to be a large cylindrical shaft, perfect for feathered serpents to slither through, I'm just saying. Number 7, Ice Age art. We're going to break down some more ancient artwork, this time from the Colombian Amazon. Fun fact about this place, unlike other drawings found on the ceilings of tombs across the globe, this canvas stretches roughly 8 miles long. The paintings are extremely impressive, dating back to 12,000 years ago, meaning that these drawings were made near the end of the last ice age. Thousands of paintings depicting various scenes and animals, more than the stickmen and arrows that some people are used to. The canvas was found in 2017, but it was only in the late 2020s when they went public with their findings. The findings being paintings of elephants, massive sloths, horses from the Ice Age, snakes, birds, deer, a detailed map of Disneyland's magical kingdom. You get the idea. Number 6, the Voynich manuscript. This manuscript is an illustrated codex, handwritten in an unknown script that cryptographers have coined Voychinese. Sounds very French to me, Voychinese. The pages have been carbon dated to the early 15th century and are believed to have been created in Italy during the Italian Renaissance. The strangest thing about the script is that in over 500 years, no one has been able to link these pages to any form of pre-existing language. Now, we can chalk this up to the devil and call it a day, right? Well, some theorize that these ancient texts may actually be some form of alien language. The pages of the book are filled with symbols and letters that just don't make sense as being a pre-existing language. Alien life honestly makes more sense and brings us more comfort. I would much rather know that there is a book written by a Martian than by some form of ancient evil. Granted, I could be wrong and it could be an ancient recipe book, but who knows? Number 5, Tomb KV55. Located in the Valley of the Kings in Egypt, Tomb 55, otherwise known as KV55, was discovered by Edward Ayrton back in 1907. The reason we call this tomb by a number instead of a name is because most people really don't know who or what is in it. Even the walls inside are nothing like other tombs covered in ancient hieroglyphs, tipping the reader off to the noble history of the king that lies before them. No, yeah, that doesn't exist here. The only hint that researchers discovered is a single hieroglyph, and it translates to "the evil one shall not live again." This leads people to believe that these massive stones were placed as a measure to keep something out and away from them. Usually with these ancient tombs, it's the opposite. The description for who's inside of this tomb has also been destroyed, so we have no idea who's in KV55 or what. Many believe it's Akhenaten, and back then they didn't believe in multiple gods, so it was just one. Akhenaten got on the wrong side of the high priests, and over his 17 years of ruling, he was convincing everyone that their art and religion was wrong, and that the only god in existence was a sun god. His own son, King Tut, succeeded him and luckily restored the previous religion, but maybe this sun god was passing knowledge to him, or, he just liked staring at the sun, or maybe it was aliens? Maybe, who knows? Number 4, Dark Age tombs. Looking back to the Dark Ages in Shamir Heights, northern Israel, this tomb is very large. It's made up of 400 tons of boulders and stretches 65 feet wide. This burial chamber actually goes back 4,000 5,000 years. And it could mean that humans were part of an organized society even way back then, especially considering the art they found on the ceilings inside of the dolmen. This is the first time art has been documented in one of these chambers in the Middle East, and we haven't quite figured out what the ceiling carvings depict yet. So far, they're believed to be carvings of arrows or anchors. Inside the actual grave, there were 3 sets of human remains, so it had been a busy spot back in the day for sure. While excavating the ancient grave site, archaeologists also found colored beads possibly used in some kind of a sacrificial ceremony. One of the most intriguing parts of this grave has to be the lines carved into the ceiling. All of the lines connecting create one arc. Creating something like that would take a long time and a lot of effort, unless you have a gravity beam. Number 3, the Holy Trinity. The Paracas Candelabra is a mysterious geoglyph located in the Paracas Peninsula in Peru. It is a large figure carved into the side of a hill, measuring over 180 meters in length and visible from the sea. The geoglyph depicts a candelabra-like figure with a central stem and 3 branches extending outwards. Some see a candle, I see a cactus. Aren't brains fun? The exact age and purpose of the Paracas Candelabra remains unknown, but it is believed to have been created by the Paracas culture, who inhabited the region from 800 BCE to 100 BCE. To summarize, it is very old and nobody really knows how or why it's there. The Paracas Candelabra is now considered to be an important archaeological site and cultural landmark in Peru, attracting tourists and researchers who are all, of course, intrigued by the history and symbolism. Considering its placement, it would make sense if this was some kind of ancient lighthouse meant to help ships steer that, or some kids got bored and had a lot of free time on their hands. Number 2, the Atacama Giant. This massive geoglyph is located in the Atacama Desert in Chile, and again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This ancient carving kind of looks like something that one would draw in a kindergarten class on the side of a hill though. It is a large human-like figure measuring 86 meters in height and is believed to have been created by the pre-Columbian people who inhabited the area over 1,000 years ago. The figure's arms are raised and its body is decorated with symbols and designs that are thought to have religious or astronomical significance. I can't imagine how freaked out the first person to stumble across this thing was, good lord. The purpose of the geoglyph remains a mystery. Perhaps someone was trying to communicate with the stars. The geoglyph is speculated to have been used for astronomical observation or as a spiritual symbol. Today, the Atacama Giant is considered an important archaeological site and a cultural landmark in the region. But I don't know, it feels like someone was trying to get someone's attention. And at number 1, stone circles. The Middle Eastern stone circles are a collection of ancient structures consisting of standing stones in, you guessed it, the shape of a circle. They're found in various parts of the Middle East, and again, an incredible amount of work was required to coordinate these geoglyphs. The stone circles are over 5,000 years old and were likely used for religious or astronomical purposes. Researchers have agreed that there must have been some sort of leader or head architect involved in order to make these circles happen. Perhaps an alien architect with a little alien hard hat and reflective vest. That'd be cute. Experts believe that they could have been used to herd wild animals, or the stone circles could have been used in ceremonies after people passed away.
Number 10, Gigantea. Located in Malta's Gojo Island, Gigantea is among the world's oldest freestanding structures. It predates Stonehenge and the Egyptian pyramids, so it's pretty old. Discovered in the early 19th century, these megalithic temples date back to 3600 to 3200 BC. According to local mythology, the temples were built by giants, hence the name Gigantea, which translates to giantess tower. Now, the legend behind this fascinating ancient site tells us of a giantess who, after eating red beans, bore a child and then built these temples herself. Now, the way the story is told, the giant had to hold on to her child the entire time, so this giant had to have built this all with one arm. That's super impressive. I can't even hold my arm up in class for longer than 5 minutes, let alone build a temple. That's amazing. The site reflects the architectural and artistic prowess of Malta's prehistoric people. Now, many historians are of course baffled because, as beautiful as this sounds, I don't know one person who could do this, giant or not. That's why many believe that these ancient civilizations had some sort of aid by either extraterrestrials or some sort of advanced technology that we have not found yet. So Yeah, hot start, there we go. Number 9, Nan Madol. Our next stop is an ancient city off Pohnpei's coast in Micronesia. The city consists of nearly 100 artificial islets constructed on top of coral reefs. Yeah, we're trying to save our coral reefs. Meanwhile, back in the day, they were building stuff on top of them. That's rather impressive and terrifying. Its architecture is significant because the structures, built between the 13th and the 17th centuries, they utilized massive basalt logs, showcasing early engineering abilities. Now, the origins and construction of Nan Madol remain subjects of debate. Some theories suggest external influence or, again, ancient technology, which is why it's on our list today. Others can argue local ingenuity, probably more likely than aliens, but it's all speculation regardless. We still have no clue how this was done. Local mythology speaks of twin sorcerers, Alishpa and Aloshpa, who with spiritual assistance levitated the massive stones. Honestly, that makes the most sense. I couldn't, no. 10 of me couldn't lift one of those, no way. Number 8, the Great Pyramid of Cholula. If you're ever going to Mexico for a trip with your friends or whatever, convince everybody to go off resort for one day and go see the Great Pyramid. You could miss one pool party, alright? It's just one time. The Great Pyramid of Cholula is the largest pyramid in terms of volume. And yes, that means that it's even larger than Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, the pyramid was believed to have been constructed in 4 stages, starting from the 3rd century BC. Its exact age remains debated. Historically, it was a religious and mythical center dedicated to the deity Quetzalcoatl. Now, over time, layers were added by following cultures, one on top of another, eventually being covered in vegetation entirely. Now, cut to the most recent times when the Spanish arrived. Instead of demolishing it, they built a church of Our Lady of Remedies on top. At this point, they were still unaware of the pyramid's full extent. Now, local legends suggest the pyramid was built by giants or gods. Another popular belief is that it holds a vast network of tunnels or a hidden chamber. So whoever's hiding in there, they buried themselves quite deep. It's not bad. We're never gonna find it. Number 7. Cart ruts, Malta. Cart ruts in Malta are on a much smaller scale than the Great Pyramid, but these mysterious parallel groves found in limestone plateaus have a big story to tell. The tracks are believed to date back to the Bronze Age. They were discovered in the 19th century, and their exact purpose is still uncertain, of course. But we have theories ranging from transportation to ritualistic use. All that in just 2 little tracks. Look at that. Maltese folklore sometimes attributes these tracks to giants dragging their boats. Now, the tracks run through solid rock. That's the fascinating part here. It's not soft clay. It wasn't once soft clay. It is solid rock. Always has been. This adds to the mystery of these 2,700-year-old tracks. Natural or man-made? We still have no idea, so it's impossible to conclude their purpose. What do you guys think? Comment down below. And while you're down there, hit that thumbs up. You know what I mean? We're having a good time. We're almost halfway done. You love the channel, we love you. Show some love. Number 6, Menastra Temples, Malta. Another ancient Maltese site, 2 in a row. How lucky are we? Menastra Temples are located in Malta's southern coast, and together these buildings form an impressive megalithic complex. Dating from anywhere from 3,600 years ago to 2,500 BC. Now, as if the design wasn't fascinating enough, you'll be surprised to know these buildings would provide insight into Malta's prehistoric period, with features aligned to celestial events. Okay. Local legends, influenced by the temple's monumental size, suggest that they were constructed by, you guessed it, giants, or by using mystical means. Aliens, I guess that's what that one means. The blend of real history and mythology surrounding Menastra showcases the enduring allure of Malta's ancient past. God, I wish I could just glimpse into the past. Just a little quick peek, that's it. I won't help, because I'm not a giant, so I'm just gonna watch, but that's it, just a quick peek. Number 5, the Göbekli Circle. Since we're all looking into the cosmos for answers, let us now take a look at the Göbekli Circle. It's not a great pyramid ascending towards the gods, it's actually rather simple. The Göbekli Circle was discovered in 1991 when archaeologists were conducting a routine aerial circle around the town of Göbekli, Germany. Now, they saw below them an undiscovered 75-meter wide circle cut through at 3 different points. Now, when excavation began later in 2002, they discovered these carved circular rings were aligned with the sunset and sunrise. So many believe this was an ancient solar observatory, but considering the fact that the Göbekli Circle dates back to 4,900 BC during the European Neolithic, this means that this ring is older than the Egyptian pyramids. That's fascinating. When I was in school, they always talked about the pyramids being the oldest thing from ancient humans. It's like, no, you missed about 10, actually. The discovery of a headless skeleton with deliberate cuts in their bones also suggests that this may have been a place of sacrifice. Yeah, yikes. It was beautiful, but it was also kind of disgusting. Beautiful on top and disgusting on bottom, I guess. I don't know. Number 4, the Yonaguni Monument. Grab your goggles for this next one because we're going diving. The Yonaguni Monument, submerged near Japan's Ryukyu Islands, is a mysterious underwater site with sandstone structures, columns, and even a stepped pyramid. Not natural at all. No way, I don't believe that. It was discovered off Yonaguni's coast, and its origin, natural or man-made, it sparks quite the debate. Some experts believe that its formation was caused by seismic activities, suggesting earthquakes or erosion crafted this unique shape. However, Professor Masaki Kimura argues that its precise carvings, sharp angles, and distinct holes indicate human craftsmanship, which is pretty amazing. He dates it back to 2,000 years ago, speculating that it might be remnants of the lost Mu civilization. 2,000 years old, those carvings, and it truly is a head scratcher. Do you believe the Yonaguni Monument is made of natural formation, or did humans make this a long time ago? Comment down below your theories, because I have no idea. That's why I'm asking you. Number 3, the Bimini Islands. While we're in the ocean, let's swim on over to the Bahamas and check out Bimini Road. Now this road is a submerged rock formation one could easily miss. Looks quite normal compared to everything else on the list here. Some believe it's remnants of the lost city of Atlantis, as popularized by psychic Edgar Case's predictions, but local legends and local tales often link these linear stones to ancient advanced civilizations. Bimini Road has been associated with the lost civilization of Atlantis since the 1960s, and it's been well explored since. The main argument here is that the Bimini structure is human-made, and that it's composed of evenly sized and evenly distributed square blocks of rock. Also, 90-degree angles on all these cuts. Nature doesn't do that. Nature does not give you 90-degree angles. The blend of mythology and reality around Bimini Road, and the fact that it's in the ocean, 3 for 3 right there. It has experts desperate for answers. Number 2, the Sajama Lines. The Sajama Lines were rediscovered in the 1930s in the Sajama Natural Park in Bolivia. Now, it's a massive network of straight lines and geometric shapes, and it's stretching over 20 kilometers over the surrounding landscape. This is our biggest one on the list. This looks like a crater on the moon almost. There's lines shooting out of it. It almost looks like some sort of ancient highway. I don't know. It's really hard to look at. Maybe I'm crazy, but we're at number 2, okay? Let's get weird for the last parts. Some experts believe that the Sajama Lines were used for astronomical observation as they are aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and the stars. That's both impressive and terrifying, right? Is this like some UFO airport? What am I looking at right now? And finally, number 1, the Atacama Giant. We've been talking about giants all day. Let's just finish with the biggest one, all right? This massive geoglyph is located in the Atacama Desert of Chile, and it looks like an alien doodle. I love this little guy. He looks kind of friendly. I'd say what's up, shake his hand. It's a large human-like figure that measures 86 meters in height, and is believed to have been created by the pre-Columbian peoples who inhabited the area over 1,000 years ago. Now, the figure's arms are raised, and its body is decorated with symbols and designs that are thought to have religious or astronomical significance.
Number 10, Tua de Danann. Ireland is full of incredible Neolithic sites, one of which is Newgrange, an immense ancient passage tomb. But even more fascinatingly, the tomb is beautifully and perfectly illuminated on the winter solstice, when the cold rising sun lines up perfectly with a roof box just above the entrance. Ireland, famously, was colonized and inhabited by the Celts, but it is not truly known who or what culture inhabited the Emerald Isle before the Celts arrived. But the Celts themselves had an idea. They spoke of the Tua de Danann, otherworldly gods and goddesses that drift between our world and the other. The Celts would tell that Newgrange had been built for a Tua de king, someone with the majesty, elegance, and power of the stars. Could it be that this ancient tale actually belies a fascinating truth? Could the pre-Celtic Irish have had contact with extraterrestrials? And could Newgrange have been built for these same extraterrestrials? The patterns carved in the stones nearby are reminiscent of crop circles, and the whole layout of Newgrange does somewhat appear like a primitive landing pad. Or perhaps ancient people just had a better understanding of the stars than we realize. Number 9, Cucuteni-Trypillia. The Cucuteni-Trypillia are a fascinating culture who established themselves in Southeast Europe, what we now consider the Balkans. The Cucuteni were present from the Neolithic to the Chalcolithic, from about 5500 BCE to 2750 BCE. But what makes the Cucuteni truly fascinating beyond their intriguing art and pottery and other discoveries was the discovery of their towns, cities more like. The Cucuteni had the most dense settlements in all of Neolithic Europe, the largest of which having had some 3,000 or more structures and likely housed between 20 and 45,000 people. Plenty of other Neolithic European cultures had permanent dwellings. Plenty of other cultures had agriculture. So what made the Cucuteni special? It seems an innovative way of dealing with detritus, garbage, and mold. The Cucuteni, once a year, would gather all of their personal objects, clean their homes of their belongings, and burn their entire city to the ground. This destroyed any black mold that was festering, cleaned up the city of garbage, and allowed a new, fresh start. However, the drastic and seemingly counterintuitive nature of this tradition has caused some to wonder if the Cucuteni had not received this knowledge from somewhere else. Perhaps kind strangers wandering the stars. Number 8. Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan was one of the largest cities in pre-contact America, and was truly an incredibly impressive sight. The entire city was situated on top of Lake Texcoco, with built-up docks and floating farms making up the near entirety of the city. The incredible complexity and fascinating techniques and technologies used to accomplish such an incredible city stunned the first Europeans to see it. The original Mexico wanderers were told through a vision of an eagle with a snake in its beak perched upon a cactus to settle here in this small, swampy island in Lake Texcoco. And there they would turn it into a hub of culture and power in Mesoamerica. But the shocking complexity and effectiveness of the great city and the technology that allowed it to flourish shocked early colonizers. The indigenous people of the Americas had many complex technologies and many large constructions and settlements. However, this confused small-minded 18th century European anthropologists, who began the idea that there must have been some sort of external contact and aid that allowed the Aztecs of the Triple Alliance to build such impressive structures. While there are stories in Aztec mythology of star people, and many stories which have encouraged the theory that they may have had some sort of contact with the extraterrestrial, no evidence indicating the impressive and complex technologies developed in the Americas was ever connected to extraterrestrials. They may be simply intelligent people with generations of education, development, and expertise. Number 7. Sumeria. The Sumerians are a fascinating culture and one of the earliest known to settle in the Indus Valley, the so-called cradle of civilization. The Sumerians are thought to potentially be West Asians who walked from the Hindu Kush or Ganges Plateau, or fishermen from the eastern Arabian littorals, or perhaps they were even from North Africa. Wherever they came from, the Sumerians would make numerous incredible technological advancements. They invented the plow, irrigation, saws, other tools, and much more. This more advanced agriculture also allowed the Sumerians to develop a food surplus, which led to the first concepts of trade and taxation. Writing was then developed to record trade and storage records, and arithmetic, geometry, and commercial production would grow and flourish into being. There are a vast number of complex reasons and variables that led to the Sumerians achieving all of these discoveries first. Or, maybe it was aliens who taught them how to write. Number 6. Seahenge. Seahenge was first discovered in 1998 when beachcombers discovered the strange stump at the site's center. Once exhumed, the whole site would be unveiled. A ring of tall oak trunks had been sunk in a circle with a great upturned oak tree stump in the center. Seahenge was certainly a religious site of great importance, but its exact purpose is unknown. Every tree in the henge was felled in 2049 BCE, giving us a stunningly precise view into when this construction was built. The construction took a serious, concerted effort and used some 50 bronze axes. These axes would have been incredibly rare and incredibly valuable at the time, indicating, again, the great importance of this site. In recent years, the past century or so, the coast of England has had many strange UFO and USO sightings. Could it be this Seahenge was a place of contact and communication between ancient humans and alien life? Number 5. Harappa. Also known as the Indus Valley Civilization, the Harappans were a fascinating culture based in modern-day Pakistan. The culture is named for the city of Harappa, an unusually large Bronze Age city that held at least 25,000 people. The city exists to this day, though it is significantly degraded. You may not be too surprised by this, the site is several thousand years old after all, but what if I told you this incredible archaeological site was used by the French and British in the 1800s for train track ballast? That's right, one of the largest Bronze Age cities, which survived in shockingly good condition for 3,000 years or more, was smashed to pieces by the British and French so they could build more railways. There are stories from these times of fascinating inscriptions, technologies, and indications of extraterrestrial contact littered throughout the city, but European greed and colonial drive would see all of these artifacts destroyed, ground up into train track ballast. Number 4. Paracas. The Paracas culture was an Andean civilization that lived on the coast of Peru. The Paracas were incredibly accomplished artists, with highly complex pottery and textiles which use a vast variety of construction and dyeing techniques. But that is not all that makes them such a fascinating culture. They also had highly complex burial practices, with large necropolises, shaft graves, and complex wrappings and burial procedures. But that's not what suggests alien contact. No, what suggests alien contact are the massive geoglyphs, designs and patterns carved into the very earth itself, which can span kilometers of desert and are only visible in their entirety from an aerial point of view. The Nazca Lines are far more famous, but the Paracas glyphs predate them by some 1,000 years. The Paracas also constructed their glyphs in more places than just the flat desert, typically on hillsides. Could these be some sort of communication system with an advanced alien civilization? Or are humans just very creative and bored? Number 3. Kerma. Kerma, located in present-day Sudan, was a Neolithic and Chalcolithic city that would become an ancient metropolis. At its peak, Kerma was home to over 10,000 people, and was likely the royal hub of control for the Kerma people. But Kerma, the city, while large and housing thousands, was much more of a necropolis than a metropolis. A large and fascinatingly designed cemetery took up a large section of the city and entombed some 30,000 graves. These cemeteries were arranged in strange clumps, with larger graves in the center surrounded by smaller graves, indicating social stratification and connections. But the size, complexity, and incredible longevity of Kerma has caused some of the more conspiratorial researchers to begin pointing fingers at aliens as an explanation for the complexity. Number 2. Dong Son. The Dong Son culture is a Bronze Age culture from modern Vietnam, based along the Red River Valley in northern Vietnam. They were skilled rice farmers and kept many domesticated animals, including water buffalo and pigs. They were also skilled fishermen and canoe builders. But what really stunned scientists was their incredible mastery of bronze. Not only did the Dong Son have axes, swords, plows, and more made of bronze, but they also had incredibly delicate bronze drums, instruments that would have required a massive amount of precision, skill, and refinement in the art of shaping bronze to create. In fact, it was once believed bronze forging was invented in China and spread throughout Asia from there, but now it is believed the Dong Son, or their predecessors, were actually the ones to first develop such advanced bronze forging. There has long been a theory that metallurgy was introduced to humanity from an exterior source, which would mean the Dong Son would have been the first ones to make contact. Or maybe we figured out smelting all on our own. Who's to say? Number 1. Ptolemaic Egypt. Egypt has long been considered one of the most extraterrestrially influenced cultures in ancient history. Ancient Egypt has a vast timeline spanning from the pre-dynastic period, some 5,500 years ago, to the Roman period, which ended some mere 1,400 years ago. The Ptolemaic period was the one immediately before the Roman period, and is special because of a certain monument that was constructed. Hathor Temple at Dendera was constructed, and a strange series of reliefs were inscribed, which archaeologists have interpreted as a creation myth for the Egyptians put to stone. But many in the modern day have seen these reliefs and interpreted something else.
These people instead see Horus holding something akin to a light bulb, with a filament, wire, casing, and all necessary components. Experts have said this is a case of rationalizing the past with our own modern biases. UFO enthusiasts believe this is concrete evidence of ancient contact with the Egyptians.
At number 10 are the blocks of Puma Punku. Nestled in the high Bolivia Andes, this temple complex is more than just ancient architecture. Some believe it to be a cosmic connection to extraterrestrial visitors. Imagine this, massive stones weighing up to a mind-boggling 131 tons, move to a jaw-dropping altitude of 12,800 feet with no trees cut down for help. How did ancient humans accomplish this feat over a millennium ago? And the precision cuts on these stones, they're so perfect, it's like they were sculpted by otherworldly hands. Could these intricate marvels be evidence of ancient aliens lending a hand? The tools used remain a baffling enigma. Were our ancestors more advanced than we thought? Puma Punku leaves us pondering whether otherworldly assistance played a part in shaping human history. So is Puma Punku ultimate proof of extraterrestrial involvement? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. And if you're liking the video so far, you can support this channel by pressing like, subscribing to Bumblebee, and ringing that notification bell. At number 9, UFOs in ancient Japan. This is a mind-boggling discovery that might just rewrite Japan's ancient history. Ancient tiles inscribed with what looks like to be kanji characters have been found at Asukadera, Japan's first Buddhist temple. But here's where it gets intriguing. One of these titles bears the character of flight, and also has an initial character Asuka in the temple's name. Coincidence, or is it a cosmic connection left by ancient aliens? And hold on, we've got more. Pyramid-like structures, unusual stones, an intricate star chart found in the Kitira tomb, featuring constellations of celestial movements unlike anything of its time. Is it possible that aliens could have shared their cosmic knowledge with our ancestors, shaping Japan's history and leaving behind astonishing evidence? Is it possible that we're looking at the fingerprints of ancient aliens in Japan's past? Feel free to hash it out down in the comments. At number 8 are the flying temples. The Vimana are ancient flying machines that might be evidence of ancient aliens. Imagine a world where high-tech aircraft roam the skies, but 4,000 years ago. Meet David W. Davenport, a researcher who connected the dots between scansert text and advanced technology. See, he hinted at ancient aircraft reconstruction of Vimana with clues hidden in the past. A city called Mohenjo-Daro was wiped out in an explosion that could have been nuclear. Davenport's work also points to a manual of aeronautics, the Vimanika Astrasha, describing electric motors and more. But language is a barrier. Imagine explaining smartphones to folks from the 18th century. They'd be baffled. See, Davenport faced the same challenge, decoding terms like gooseneck and whiskers. It's like a futuristic scholar trying to make us grasp their advanced tech using unfamiliar words. Could Vimanas be the link to ancient aliens? Well, the puzzle is complex, like deciphering ancient code. The truth might be out there waiting for us to connect the dots. At number 7, the robotic sentry in ancient India. Imagine robots guarding Buddha's relics in ancient India. A story that might sound like pure fantasy, but it's rooted in intriguing historical connections. Travel back with me to ancient Greece, where Homer first introduced the concept of automatrons. Now fast forward to the Hellenistic Alexandria, where engineers brought these ideas to life with real mechanical robots. Now let's journey to India. In a time of kings and innovation, Ajatasattu, a ruler known for his military inventions, safeguarded Buddha's precious remains using remarkable robot guards. These automaton defenders were predicted to watch over the relics until a future king spread them across the land. Hints of these robotic marvels also appear in Hindu and Buddhist texts, where they're described as whirling and slashing like wind, reminiscent of Ajatasattu's war chariots. The tale takes an even more intriguing turn as we explore connections between the East and the West. Now, could this possibly be evidence of ancient exchange of technology? Contracts between India and Greece during the King's era hint at potential cross-pollination of ideas. Greek ambassadors, inscriptions, and correspondence between the rulers suggest a web of connections that could have birthed this captivating legend. While we can't confirm whether robots truly guarded Buddha's relics, this story serves as a testament to the timeless link between human imagination and scientific exploration. At number 6 is the treasury at Petra. Built in the 1st century BC, this masterpiece stands as a baffling anomaly in architectural history. Its design, unlike anything in the region, hints at the possibility of ancient alien influence. It's a structure carved into the cliffs, defying norms of its era. Could it be that extraterrestrial architects lent their expertise? And what is its purpose? Well, it's a cosmic mystery. Could the treasury have served as a cosmic message or repository for advanced knowledge? As we admire this enigma, we're left wondering if the treasury Petra is not just some monument to human creativity, but a celestial connection connection to the unknown. At number 5 are the Dogu figurines. These enigmatic figurines with their distinctive large goggle-like eyes has puzzled scholars and raised an eyebrow or two. While mainstream thinking suggests that they're tied to religious and shamanic practices, let's take a moment to entertain a more out-of-this-world idea. Imagine a scenario where the Jaman people had contact with advanced extraterrestrial beings. These figurines might be artistic attempts to capture their appearance as a sort of cosmic selfie in clay. Those big eyes, they could resemble a stereotypical grays from UFO lore. And the deliberate breaking of the figurines? What if it's a symbolic act, a way to communicate or release energy to those unworldly visitors? But of course, this is all speculative fun. The traditional explanation of these religious rituals holds merit. Still, it's fascinating to consider the possibility that these Dogu figurines could be a link to ancient alien encounters, an ancient mystery waiting to be unraveled. So whether you're a skeptic or explorer of the unknown, the Dogu figurines remain an intriguing enigma, inviting us to imagine the secrets they might hold. At number 4 is Lalibella's rock-hewn churches. First off, Ethiopia's long-standing Christianity is impressive, and these churches are a testament to that. But are we missing a more celestial connection? The meticulous design and cross-shaped windows, ventilation, and drainage seems almost as if the technology was way too advanced for their time. Now, the mainstream theory points to King Lalibela as the mastermind behind this architectural marvel. But the evidence is as thin as a whisper. An ancient tool that looks more like a farm implement than a rock carving instrument? It's a head scratcher. But here's the juicy bit. Some suggest that aliens could have lent a hand. Imagine extraterrestrial beings collaborating with the king, sharing their cosmic know-how, and with their help, these churches could have been carved out of the stone with ease. And let's not forget the locals' take. They're convinced that the king had a divine assist, an army of angels working overnight. Could this be a metaphor for advanced beings? At number 3, the Baltic Sea anomaly. A mushroom-like object rising from the seabed, covered in straight edges, construction lines, and even a mysterious staircase. It's like an underwater puzzle just waiting to be solved. This enigma sits at a depth of 300 feet with a circular shape about 60 meters in diameter and a tail stretching 400 meters. It caught the attention of explorers, scientists, and UFO enthusiasts alike. But here's where it gets really intriguing. Electronic equipment goes haywire near it. It's as if this anomaly disrupts the very laws of technology. Could this be evidence of ancient aliens? Some speculate that this might be a sunken UFO or a portal to another world. But there's more to the story. A Swedish diving team recorded footage of the runaway-like structure leading up to the object. And while experts debate its origins from ancient civilizations to shrunken submarines, one thing's for sure, the Baltic Sea mystery keeps us guessing. At number 2 is Nan Madol. Nan Madol is an abandoned megalithic city that defies our understanding of ancient capabilities. Over 100 artificial islands spread across a lagoon, held together by mortar, but by the precise placement and sheer weight of the colossal stone columns. Now here's the twist. According to local legends, gigantic birds were responsible for moving these massive stones. But let's peel back the layers of myth and uncover a more unconventional idea. What if these tales hinted the involvement of advanced beings, perhaps ancient aliens, who gifted our ancestors with knowledge and technology beyond their time? And at number 1, the Borobudur Temple. This ancient marvel nestled in Indonesia boasts an intricate design that has left historians and archaeologists scratching their heads. Constructed by the Shailendra dynasty in the 8th century, this colossal Buddhist temple is a testament to human skill and dedication. However, the sheer scale and complexity of this construction have led some to wonder, could there have been an extraterrestrial touch involved? Now here's the twist. The temple's original design was altered mid-construction due to fears of collapse. But what if this change wasn't just about stability? What if there was an extraterrestrial influence guiding those adjustments? Moreover, the temple's resemblance to Mandela, the symbol of cosmic harmony, raises intriguing questions. Could this be evidence of higher intelligence shaping its form? And let's not forget the over 500 statues adorning the temple, including an unfinished Buddha sculpture within the main stupa. Its origin remains shrouded in mystery, sparking speculation about celestial gifts.
Number 10. Al Worden. American test pilot, engineer, and NASA astronaut Alfred Merrill Worden, the pilot for the Apollo 15 lunar missions in 1971. One of the 24 people that have gone to the moon. Woohoo! He orbited it 74 times. Well, he was the first to even drive a moon car. Worden remained at NASA until 1975. And then it gets a little weird. Recently, on a morning show, they asked Worden, why do we keep going back to the moon? He paused and said, quote, survival. Survival of our species. When pressed on aliens, he said, you know, we are the aliens, right? We just think there's somebody else. We're the ones who came from somewhere else because somebody else had to survive. They got in a little spacecraft and they came here and they landed and they started civilization here. And if you don't believe me, go get books on the ancient Sumerians and see what they have to say about it. End quote. Yeah, that's not terrifying at all, Al. Number 9, Edgar Mitchell. Edgar Dean Mitchell was a US Navy officer, aviator, test pilot, engineer, NASA astronaut, and of course, ufologist.
Ufology is the pseudo term for somebody who studies UFOs. I don't think there's like a degree you can just get that in. If so, where? I'm signing up. Just needed a name for it, I guess? I don't know. The lunar module pilot of Apollo 14 in 1971, guy clocked 9 hours working on the moon. He was the 6th person to walk on the moon as well. Mitchell publicly expressed his opinions that he was sure that there were thousands of UFOs recorded since the early 1940s, apparently belonging to other planets. Thousands of them. NBC conducted an interview in 1996. He talked about meeting with officials from 3 different countries who said that they had met ETs in person. Quote, "The evidence for alien contact is very strong and classified by governments who are covering up visitations and the existence of alien bodies, specifically in places like Roswell, New Mexico." Sorry, do you mind if I just see his credentials one more time? Thank you so much. Number 8. James McDivitt. James Alton McDivitt is an American test pilot, Air Force pilot, engineer, and NASA astronaut who flew both in the Gemini and Apollo programs. McDivitt was selected by NASA for the Gemini 4 mission, and in 1965, he saw, filmed, and photographed an object, which approached the Gemini 4 as they were orbiting Earth over Hawaii. Apparently, the UFO had a long arm sticking out of it. Quote, "I was flying with Ed. He was sleeping, we were drifting, when suddenly an object appeared in the window. A cylindrical object, white." The film was then sent back to NASA and reviewed by NASA film technicians in 1975. It looked like a white beer can with a pencil sticking out of it. Yeah, he tried for years to get the word out about the phenomenon, but NASA lost those pictures apparently. Oh, that James, he's a crazy one up there in space with all those degrees he has. What a wacko. Number 7. Dark Side of the Moon. Not just an absolute banger of an album, also one of the most terrifying mysterious places in our galaxy. The dark side of our moon. Since the 1950s, NASA has seen and heard some pretty weird stuff back there. See, once you sign that non-disclosure, they kinda own ya, you know? Despite what you may have heard, it's true that the Apollo 10 astronauts did hear some interesting sounds behind the moon, described as outer space type music. Audio recordings from the Apollo 10 mission, astronaut Gene Cernan asks John Young if he hears that. Gene calls it music and says it even sounds outer spacey sounding. Young says, "We're gonna have to find out about that, because nobody's gonna believe us." Hey man, no one believes anyone who's gone up there, so don't take it personally. Astronauts go through visual and audio testing like the Navy SEALs. They know what they're doing. If they say Angel by Shaggy is playing back there, I'm believing them. Number 6. Leland Melvin. American engineer and NASA astronaut on board the space shuttle Atlantis, selected by NASA in 1998. This guy's put in time with mission after mission. Melvin has over 565 hours in space. Quite the practice at the whole floating around thing, I'd say. When Leland then was pressed about otherworldly visitors, he said he had seen something translucent, curved, and organic looking when he was working with fellow astronaut Randy Bresnik. The pair called the ground to ask NASA what it could be, and NASA's response was, probably ice, probably ice. Nice and scientific, Houston. Thanks for that. Mr. Melvin dismissed this and figured it was just NASA's explanation to cover it up. Like, who's more qualified here? That's all I'm asking. When the most qualified people are like, yeah, I can't tell if that's frozen water or a spaceship. Either they shouldn't be up there at all, or they need some more Windex on those windows, NASA. Number 5. Ivan Wagner. Astronaut Ivan Wagner was on the ISS as a first-timer in 2020. You think they do trades initiations to the rookies up there? Like no gravity and buckle you when you sleep? What do you think? He and fellow Russian Anatoly Ivashinin are working with Chris Cassidy up there, the American commander of said expedition. Wagner was then orbiting the Earth and might have actually captured footage of UFOs, better known now as UAPs. The aurora lights behind Earth's beautiful curves was being recorded, and it was seen. He labeled the video Space Guests. Wagner then tweeted the vid, the aurora australis near Antarctica and Australia, and then this blob of organized lights shows up. Of course, NASA didn't follow up. What are they gonna say? Yeah, that's swamp gas, birds, balloon, grass, cars, something up there. I don't know. Cut the feed. Cut the feed. Number 4, moonwalk. Yeah, so apparently the footage our parents and also 650 million people across the globe watched in 1969 was not the original footage. Hold up, what? Yeah, apparently what everyone saw on every television set across the globe wasn't as 4K as NASA's end. A man by the name of Gary George came across some very, very old tapes that might be proof as to what NASA sees and what they hear on their end. It's a little different than what we see. Gary George bought 218 surplus government tapes, 3 reels labeled Apollo 11 EVA. He auctioned them at Sotheby's, first generation of the moonwalk. So hold on, NASA just had a clearer copy of this the whole time? I get it, maybe they had a bigger budget. I'm thinking so we can't see what's in the background, or what's flying in the background, or any stars in the background. Yeah, I just wonder how long it's going to take before Robert Bigelow or Tom DeLonge get their hands on that. Hey mom, there's something in the background, guys, pay attention. Number 3, Gordon Cooper. Leroy Gordon Cooper Jr. was an American engineer, test pilot, US Air Force pilot, and the youngest of the 7 original astronauts in Project Mercury. You know the pictures, it's the old school tinfoil suits. 1963, Cooper piloted the longest and last Mercury spaceflight, Mercury Atlas 9. 34 hours in space. The first American to spend an entire day in space, the first to sleep in space, and in Cooper's autobiography, Leap of Faith, he recounted his relationship with the Air Force and NASA and their relationship to the UFO conspiracy. Cooper claimed to see his first UFO while flying over Germany. He said that there were hundreds of reports made by pilots, many coming from military on radar. In 1978, he even testified before the United Nations on the topic. Radar operators, fighter pilots, fellow astronauts. He was a strong advocate for disclosure up until his passing. Number 2. Lost in space. During the 60s, the space race was on between the Americans and the Russians. Like a good old hockey game, huh? Those two, always at it. The first to figure out what it is to put something or someone up in a little metal box. It was actually the Soviets that secured many of the early victories. While NASA's efforts were widely publicized, of course, sometimes the Soviets made it a point to never announce a mission until days after it was completed, and of course, successful. This allowed them to maintain control over information. Enter stage right, the Giudica Cordiglia brothers from Italy. Former amateur radio operators who apparently caught Russian audio recordings which allegedly proves the Soviets covered up cosmonauts' failed missions in the early 1960s. Apparently she's saying, help, help, I feel hot, am I going to crash? Yo, that is absolutely horrifying. If this is the real deal and the Soviets sent a woman into space that maybe didn't come back, this proves that whatever happens in space, stays in space. We're only told what we're supposed to hear. Number 1. Buzz Aldrin. American astronaut, engineer, fighter pilot with a Doctor of Science in Astronautics. This guy is overqualified. 3 spacewalks in 1966, Gemini 12 mission. As the lunar module Eagle pilot on the 1969 Apollo 11 mission, he and mission commander Neil Armstrong were the first 2 to land on the moon. There was something out there, close enough to be observed, and what it could be, according to Aldrin on Apollo 11 to the moon, he observed a light out of the window that appeared to be moving alongside them. But what could it have been other than another spacecraft from another country, or maybe even another world? It was either the rocket that had separated from us, or the 4 panels that moved away when we extracted the lander. After he returned home from his missions, he was convinced that he saw aliens while he was out there. Credentials aside, Guy took a lie detector test, which he passed with flying colors. In an interview with C-SPAN, Buzz talked about the future potential of the Earth's moon for humanity. He added a little extra info that might have ignited the spark to go back, regarding a certain monolith on the moon. Quote, visit the moon Phobos of Mars. There's a monolith there, a very unusual structure on this little potato object that goes around the moon once every 7 hours. When people find out about that, they're gonna say, who put that there? Yeah, I'll be the first one, Buzz. Who did put that there?